The room went quiet the moment he walked in, not gradually. All at once, the way sound disappears underwater. 14 faces turned toward the doorway, and Raymond Dwyer stood there in his gray work uniform, a folder pressed against his chest, his boot-squeaking footsteps halting on the polished marble floor. The projector hummed. Someone's coffee cup clinked against a saucer, and then went still. At the head of the mahogany table, Hargrove's pen stopped moving. The headmaster, Dr. Ellison, rose halfway from his chair. His face had gone the particular color of a man who has just realized something is very wrong and cannot yet name what it is. "Sir." The assistant by the door stepped forward. Her voice was careful, the way voices get when people are trying to sound calm and aren't. Raymond didn't move. He looked at the table, at the 14 faces, at Hargrove, who had set his pen down with a precision that looked almost deliberate. "I know," Raymond said. His voice was quiet, even. The voice of a man who had decided something before he walked through the door. "I'm sorry, but someone has to be." Nobody spoke. The projector kept humming. The fluorescent lights in the drop ceiling cast their flat, indifferent light across the room. Across the mahogany, the leather chairs, the framed school crest on the wall, and across Raymond Dwyer, 44 years old, 11 years of service, standing in a room he had mopped 100 times and never once been invited into. He held the folder a little tighter. The clasp was broken. A rubber band held it shut. Dr. Ellison's mouth opened, closed. Hargrove looked at the folder, then at Raymond. Something moved behind his eyes, not fear, not yet, but the first edge of a recognition he did not want to have. ___, quote _4__, Dr. Ellison's voice had dropped to something almost private. "What is this?" Raymond looked at him steadily. "I found something," he said. "I thought the board should see it." The silence stretched. Outside the tall windows, the school parking lot sat empty and dark. 6 rows of white parking lines glowing faintly under the security lights. Somewhere down the hallway, a door drifted shut with a soft click. And in the back of the room, near the wall, a woman in a gray wool coat sat down in a chair that had not been set out for her. She had arrived without announcement. She set a leather briefcase across her knees, folded her hands over the top of it, and said nothing at all. Nobody had noticed her come in. But to understand why a school janitor was standing in that room, in his work uniform, on a Wednesday evening in March, holding a folder with a broken clasp, you have to go back to a Tuesday night in November, to an empty hallway, to a heating vent beside a closed office door, and to a piece of paper that was never supposed to be found. Before we go there, if stories like this one stay with you, subscribe and drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Now, let's go back to the beginning. November. The fun is just beginning. Tell us what city you're from in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. The tension is rising. Who's watching from where? Like and subscribe to the channel. More to come. Tell us in the comments who's from which country, and give us a like and subscribe. The plot thickens. Let's check our geography. Tell us where you are now. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. We're just warming up. Tell us where you're watching from. Give the video a like and hit the subscribe button. The climax is near. Share where you're from, like, and be sure to subscribe. Events are unfolding rapidly. Write your city in the chat, give it a like, and subscribe so you don't get lost. The juiciest part is yet to come. Let's get started. Get to know each other. Where are you from? Like and subscribe right now. The suspense is building. Tell us where you're watching this episode from, and reward us with a like and a subscribe. The excitement is running high. Tell us what city you're from now. Give us a big like and subscribe to the channel. 3 months before the board meeting. Raymond Dwyer left his apartment at 9:47 every weeknight, not 9:45, not 9:50. The wristwatch on his left wrist ran 4 minutes fast, and he had never corrected it because the 4 extra minutes made him feel like he was always slightly ahead of something. The apartment was 2 rooms on the 3rd floor of a building on Caldwell Street. The kitchen table had one leg shimmed with a folded takeout menu from a Chinese place that had closed 2 years ago. The lamp above it buzzed when the temperature dropped. The refrigerator made a sound like a man clearing his throat, every 40 minutes, reliably, like a roommate with a habit. Raymond ate a turkey sandwich over the sink most nights, standing. He'd stopped sitting down for dinner sometime around year 8 at the school, when the shift change pushed his schedule late enough that sitting felt like a luxury he hadn't earned yet. He drove a 2009 Dodge with a cracked rear bumper and a heating system that worked on the driver's side only. The school was 6 miles away. He knew every light. Westbrook Academy sat behind a stone gate on Morrison Boulevard, the kind of building that had been designed to remind people of something older and more important than itself. At night, with the students gone, it was all echoes and long pale rectangles of light reflected off the hallway floors. Raymond's cart smelled like industrial lemon. The cleaning solution the school ordered in bulk, the kind that clung to the inside of your nose long after the shift ended. He moved through the corridors methodically. East wing first, restrooms, then the administrative corridor, then the main hall. He had done this for 11 years. He knew which floorboards creaked and which doors drifted open on their own. He knew the radiator in the east stairwell ticked 3 times before it kicked on. He knew things about the building that the headmaster, in his 6-bedroom house visible from the parking lot, did not know and would never think to ask. He was mopping the main hall one evening in late October when he first noticed the boy. The cafeteria was supposed to be empty by 4, but there was a kid in the far corner booth, 9 years old maybe, small for his age, eating peanut butter crackers from a Ziploc bag and reading a library book with both hands flat on the table to keep it open. His backpack sat beside him on the bench. The zipper was held shut with a rubber band. Raymond slowed the mop. The boy looked up. He didn't seem startled. He just looked, the way kids look when they've learned that being noticed doesn't always mean something good. Raymond said, "Not unkind, just true." The boy closed his book carefully, marking his page with a cracker wrapper. Raymond looked at him for a moment. Then he went back to mopping. Quote, 11, quote, he said. Quote, 12, quote. The boy nodded. Quote, 13, quote. He opened his book again. Raymond moved the mop in slow arcs and did not look back. But he noticed the rubber band on the zipper, and he noticed the boy had eaten 4 crackers and saved the rest. Raymond had seen board members before. They came through twice a year, fall review, spring gala, moving through the hallways in good coats, trailing the smell of cedar and dry-cleaned wool, speaking to Dr. Ellison in the low, assured tones of people who considered the school a reflection of their own good judgment. Hargrove was different. Martin Hargrove arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in early November, and Raymond noticed him the way he noticed everything, quietly, from the periphery, while doing something else entirely. Hargrove was 60, maybe 62, with the kind of posture that came from decades of being the tallest status person in any room he entered. His shoes were Italian. His handshake, from what Raymond could observe, was the kind that lasted exactly 1 second longer than necessary. He walked the administrative corridor with Dr. Ellison like a man inspecting property he already owned. Quote, 14, Hargrove was saying, his voice carrying easily in the empty hall. Quote, 15. Dr. Ellison's response was too low to catch. Raymond kept his eyes on the baseboards, His mop moved in slow, even strokes. "I'm not asking for anything extraordinary," Hargrove continued. "I'm asking for discretion. The slot exists. We simply need to redirect it appropriately." A pause. Footsteps slowing near the headmaster's office door. Underscore, underscore. Quote underscore 18. Underscore, underscore, Dr. Ellison asked. Underscore, underscore. Quote underscore 19 underscore underscore, Hargrove said. Quote 20. Quote. The office door clicked shut. Raymond finished the baseboard. He wrung out the mop. He moved to the next section of hallway and did not change his pace by a single step. He had learned, over 11 years, that the most important thing a person in his position could do was be completely unremarkable. Not invisible, people noticed him, said good morning, occasionally asked where the nearest restroom was. But unremarkable. Background, part of the building's furniture, like the radiator that ticked before it kicked on. It meant he heard things. He didn't act on what he'd heard that Tuesday. He filed it away in the careful, organized space in the back of his mind where he kept things that didn't yet have a shape. He drove home on the 6-mile route he knew by heart. He ate standing over the sink. He called his sister in Savannah, and she told him her youngest had lost his first tooth, and he laughed at that, genuinely, and the conversation lasted 22 minutes. He did not think about Hargrove again until 3 days later. It was a Thursday. Raymond was mopping the administrative corridor at 11 p.m., the building empty and echoing around him, the industrial lemon smell sharp in the cold air. The heating vent beside the headmaster's office door sat at floor level, a metal grill the size of a shoebox. He had mopped past it 1,000 times. That night, something white was visible at the edge of the grill, a corner of paper, folded, pressed against the vent's lower lip as if it had slipped from somewhere and been caught by the airflow. Raymond stopped. He looked at it for a long moment. Then he crouched down, set his mop against the wall, and pulled the paper free. He unfolded it, read the first line. The name at the top was Caleb Osei. He read it at the kitchen table. Once, straight through. Then he set it flat on the laminate surface and sat with his hands in his lap and looked at the wall. The lamp buzzed above him. Outside, a car moved slowly down Caldwell Street, its headlights sweeping across the ceiling, and gone. The document was dated October 14th. It was an internal memo, 3 paragraphs, addressed to Dr. Ellison from the Academic Review Subcommittee, which, Raymond would later learn, consisted of exactly one person, Hargrove. It recommended the termination of 1 full scholarship, valued at $18,400 annually, citing __, quote _21, __. The language was careful, institutional, the kind of language that had been written by someone who understood that the words themselves were a kind of armor. The recipient named was Caleb Osei, age 9, grade 4. Raymond read it a second time. Then he folded it exactly as he had found it and slipped it into the breast pocket of his work shirt. He finished his sandwich. He rinsed the plate. He went to bed. He did not sleep. The next morning, Raymond arrived at the school 2 hours before his shift to return a set of keys he'd signed out. The administrative office smelled like burnt coffee and the particular floral of the assistant's hand lotion, something pink and synthetic that she kept on the corner of her desk. Her name was Mrs. Paulette. She had worked at Westbrook for 19 years and knew everything about the school's operations and said very little about any of it. Raymond set the keys in the tray. "Morning, Paulette." "Morning, Raymond." She didn't look up from her monitor. He kept his voice easy, conversational. Quote 24, quote. She looked up then, just briefly. Quote 25. Quote 26. He nodded slowly. Quote 27. A pause. Her hand lotion smell drifted between them. Quote, 28, she said. Her voice had shifted, not unfriendly, but careful, the way a person sounds when they've decided not to say the next thing they were going to say. Is there something specific you needed? No. Raymond smiled. Just curious. Have a good morning. He left before she could ask a follow-up. That night, a car he didn't recognize was parked across from his building. Dark blue sedan. Engine off. It was there when he got home at midnight and still there when he looked out the window at 2 a.m. By morning, it was gone. He told himself it was nothing. He almost believed it. 3 weeks later, on a Wednesday evening, Raymond was collecting the recycling from outside the copy room, a task that appeared on his rotation every Thursday. He pulled the bin out from the wall and found it already empty. Completely empty. Liner changed. Everything cleared. Wednesday, not Thursday. He stood with the bin in his hands and stared at the clean white liner inside it. Then he set it back against the wall. Pulled out his phone, cracked screen, still worked, and made a note of the date. He was going to need help. The diner on Beatty's Ford Road had been there since 1987. It smelled like burnt coffee and the specific sweetness of canned peaches that came out of the kitchen every Tuesday when they made the cobbler. The vinyl booths were patched with electrical tape, black strips over red, neat and deliberate, like someone had decided that if something was going to be worn, it could at least be worn with intention. Dolores Fitch was in the back booth every Tuesday at 6:30. She had been coming here for 9 years, since before the cobbler was even on the menu. She was 71, small, with reading glasses on a beaded chain, and hands that moved with the particular economy of someone who had spent decades in courtrooms and learned never to waste a gesture. Raymond slid into the seat across from her. He set the folder on the table between them. She looked at it, then at him. Quote, 32. Quote, 33. Quote. She picked up the folder, opened it. The broken clasp gave way easily. She didn't seem to notice. She read in silence, the diner noise moving around them, a spoon scraping a mug somewhere behind Raymond's left shoulder. She read it twice. Then she set it down and picked up her coffee. Quote, 34, quote, she said. Quote, 35, quote, 36, quote, Yosis 37, quote. Raymond leaned forward slightly. Quote, 38, and quote, Dolores set her cup down. Quote, 39. Quote, 40, he said. Quote, 41. She was quiet for a moment. Outside the diner window, a bus moved past on Beatty's Ford, its lights long and yellow in the early dark. Quote, 42. She said, tapping the folder once with one finger. She paused. Raymond thought about the records room off the east corridor, the filing cabinet he passed every Thursday, the one nobody locked because nobody thought anyone would bother. Underscore, quote, 47, underscore, he said. Dolores looked at him over the rim of her glasses. It was the look of a woman who had heard many people say possibly and learned to distinguish between the ones who meant maybe and the ones who meant yes. Quote, 48, she said quietly. Quote, 49. The cobbler arrived. She hadn't ordered it. The waitress just brought it, the way she did every Tuesday, with a fork that wobbled on the right tine. Dolores picked up the fork. Bring me everything you can find, she said. Don't take anything you're not authorized to access. Don't ask questions that sound like questions. Raymond nodded. And Raymond. She looked up. Be careful what you leave behind. People who do things like this. She tapped the folder again. Notice when someone starts noticing. Raymond drove home on the 6-mile route. The dark blue sedan was parked across from his building again. Same spot, same angle. He went inside without looking at it directly. The records room off the east corridor was never locked. Raymond had known this for years, had noted it the way he noted everything, without intention, without a plan, simply because paying attention was the thing he did best, and the thing nobody had ever thought to account for. The filing cabinet in the far corner held academic evaluations going back 4 years. They were organized by grade level, then alphabetically. Raymond found Caleb's folder on a Thursday evening during his regular rotation, while the building held nothing but the tick of the east stairwell radiator and the distant hum of the parking lot lights. He didn't remove anything. He read standing up by the light from the hallway, and he remembered what he read the way he remembered everything, completely, in order, without effort. Caleb O.C. Grade 4. Reading level, 2 years above grade. Mathematics, strong. Teacher evaluations from September and October, consistent, positive, specific. One note from his homeroom teacher, a Ms. Abernethy, dated October 3rd. Caleb is one of the most focused students I've taught at this level. His written work is exceptional. October 3rd. 11 days before Hargrove's memo. Raymond stood very still in the records room. The radiator ticked 3 times. Then it kicked on. He took a photograph with his cracked screen phone. Then another. Then he put the folder back exactly as he'd found it and finished his shift. He called Dolores from the parking lot, standing beside the Dodge in the cold, his breath visible in the November air. "I found the evaluations," he said. "And?" "Every one of them contradicts the memo. The most recent is dated 11 days before Hargrove submitted his recommendation." A pause. He could hear her setting something down on a hard surface. "Send me the photographs," she said. "Already doing it." Another pause, longer. "Raymond, this is enough to raise a formal challenge, but raising it means going on record. You understand what that means." "I understand. They will look at you, at your history, at anything they can find." Her voice was even, not unkind. "People with institutional power have institutional resources. They will use them." "I know. And you still want to proceed?" It wasn't a question, but he answered it anyway. She was quiet for a moment. Then, he drove home. The sedan wasn't there that night, which somehow felt worse than when it was. 2 days later, on a Saturday afternoon, Raymond was walking back from the corner store, a carton of milk, a box of crackers, $41 left until the following Friday, when the assistant headmaster, Mr. Briggs, passed him on the sidewalk. Briggs had never once acknowledged Raymond outside the school building in 11 years. He stopped, looked at Raymond with an expression that was carefully neutral in the way that neutral expressions sometimes aren't. Quote, 69, quote, he said. Just the name. Nothing after it. Quote, 70, quote. Raymond nodded once. Briggs held the look for exactly 2 seconds longer than was natural. Then he walked on. Raymond stood on the sidewalk with his grocery bag and watched the man's back until he turned the corner. The milk carton was cold through the thin plastic. He shifted it to his other hand. He went home. He made his notes. His handwriting, as always, was very small and very neat. It was a Tuesday evening in December, 3 weeks after the conversation with Dolores, and Raymond was mopping the cafeteria after the after-school program had cleared out. The fluorescent lights hummed their usual frequency. The room smelled like industrial lemon and the faint ghost of the afternoon's chicken nuggets. He didn't hear Caleb at first. The boy had a way of being quiet that wasn't shyness. It was more like consideration, like he'd learned early that entering a space meant being aware of who was already in it. Raymond noticed the sneakers first. Blue canvas, the left sole beginning to separate at the toe, held together along the front edge with what looked like a careful line of craft glue. The boy had fixed them himself. Caleb set his backpack on the bench, rubber band still holding the zipper, and pulled out a worksheet. He spread it flat on the table and began to work, his pencil moving in the focused, unhurried way Raymond had observed for 3 months. Raymond mopped the far end of the room and worked his way closer, the way he always did. When he reached the section near Caleb's table, he slowed. Raymond asked. The cafeteria had served peach cobbler at lunch. He'd seen Caleb's tray. Caleb didn't look up. For later. Raymond nodded. He moved the mop in a slow arc. A minute passed. The radiator in the corner ticked. Mr. Raymond. Caleb's pencil stopped. He was still looking at the worksheet. Underscore underscore. Quote underscore 75 underscore underscore. The mop handle went still in Raymond's hands. He looked at the boy. Caleb was looking up now, his expression open and direct, in the way children's faces are when they haven't yet learned to disguise a real question as a casual one. Raymond didn't answer immediately. The pause cost him something. He felt it move through his chest like a stone dropping through water. Quote, 76, quote, he said. Caleb considered this. Quote, 77, quote, Raymond held the mop handle with both hands. Quote, 78, quote, he said. Quote, 79, quote. Caleb nodded slowly like he'd already known this and just needed to hear it said out loud by someone else. He looked back at his worksheet. His pencil started moving again. Raymond finished the section. He moved to the next one. At the door, he stopped and looked back. Caleb was bent over the worksheet, pencil working, the separated sole of his left sneaker visible where his feet were crossed beneath the bench, the rubber band on the backpack, the careful glue line on the shoe. Raymond went to the supply closet. He stood inside it for a moment with the door closed, in the smell of industrial lemon and clean mop heads, and let the silence be what it was. Then he took out his phone. Cracked screen. Still worked. He typed a message to Dolores. 4 words. I'm ready. Tell me when. Her response came in under a minute. A single line, the way her messages always were, precise, no excess. Tuesday, bring the folder. The board meeting was scheduled for the 3rd Wednesday of March at 6 p.m. in the main conference room. Raymond found out the date from the printed agenda taped to the administrative bulletin board. The same bulletin board he dusted every Monday and Thursday, the one nobody thought to take down before he could read it. He had 9 days. He spent the first 3 of them doing nothing different. Same route, same shift, same turkey sandwich over the sink. He transferred the $200 to his sister in Savannah on the 1st of the month, which left $47 until Friday, which meant the new work gloves would have to wait. He didn't mind. His hands were used to the cold. On the 4th day, he went to Dolores. Her office was above a tax preparation place on Beatty's Ford, up a narrow staircase that smelled like old paper and dry radiator heat. The room itself was small and dense, legal pads stacked on every surface, a window that looked out onto the parking lot, a desk lamp with a bulb that was slightly too yellow for the space. She had laid his documents out in a row across the desk. The original memo, the photographs of Caleb's evaluations, his handwritten notes, small, neat, dated. Quote 80, quote, she said. Raymond sat across from her. Quote 81, quote, 82, quote. She picked up the memo. She set the memo down. He was quiet for a moment. The desk lamp buzzed faintly. Quote 87, quote, he asked. Quote 88, quote, 89, quote, she said. Quote 90, quote, 91, quote. Dolores looked at him over her reading glasses. She paused. He nodded slowly. Her voice dropped half a register. He looked at her. She said. He drove home. He sat at the kitchen table under the buzzing lamp and opened the folder. He read through everything one final time, not to find something new, but to know it completely, the way you learn a route before driving it in the dark. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He got out the iron. His work uniform, gray shirt, gray pants, the Westbrook maintenance patch on the left shoulder. He pressed it slowly, section by section, the steam rising in the cold kitchen air. He hung it on the back of the bathroom door. He set his alarm for 5 a.m. He lay down. He didn't sleep much. He didn't need to. The wristwatch on the nightstand read 11:58, 4 minutes fast, which meant it was 11:54, which meant tomorrow was already close. He closed his eyes and waited for it. He walked in at 6:14. The meeting had started. Through the conference room's glass panel, Raymond could see the 14 board members arranged around the mahogany table, Dr. Ellison at one end, Hargrove 3 seats to the left, a projected agenda glowing on the wall screen. The room smelled of furniture polish and the particular staleness of recycled air in a space where important people had been sitting too long. Raymond pushed the door open. His work boots squeaked once on the marble threshold. Then the room went quiet. 14 faces turned. He stood in the doorway in his pressed gray uniform, the folder held against his chest, the rubber band tight around its broken clasp. He had ironed the uniform himself. The Westbrook maintenance patch sat square on his left shoulder. The assistant near the door stepped forward. Quote, 98, quote, 99. Raymond's voice was even, unhurried. I'm sorry, but someone has to be. Nobody moved. Dr. Ellison rose halfway from his chair. Raymond. His voice was careful, the voice of a man trying to locate the edges of a situation he didn't yet understand. Raymond said. He crossed the room. He set the folder on the table and removed the rubber band. He opened it and laid the documents out in a row. The memo, the photographs of Caleb's evaluations, his handwritten notes, each page dated, each in order. This is the internal memo dated October 14th, he said, recommending termination of a scholarship on grounds of academic underperformance. He placed one photograph beside it. This is the teacher evaluation from October 3rd, 11 days earlier. It describes the same student as exceptional. Silence. Hargrove's pen had stopped moving. He set it down with a controlled precision that cost him something. Underscore, underscore, quote underscore 108 underscore underscore. Hargrove said, his voice finding its institutional register, quote 109, quote 110. The voice came from the back of the room. Every head turned. Dolores Fitch sat in a chair against the wall, her leather briefcase across her knees, her gray wool coat still buttoned. She had arrived without anyone noticing. She looked at Hargrove with the calm of someone who had spent 40 years in rooms exactly like this one and had never once needed to raise her voice to be heard. Quote, 111, quote. She repeated, quote, 112, quote. Hargrove's jaw tightened. And who exactly are you? Dolores Fitch, retired civil rights attorney, currently reviewing this matter pro bono. She opened her briefcase. I have copies of everything Mr. Dwyer has presented, along with a timeline that will be of significant interest to this board. Dr. Ellison looked at Raymond. His face had gone the color of old chalk. Where did you get this? Raymond held his gaze. Behind the heating vent, third door on the left, administrative corridor. A pause. I mop that hallway every Tuesday. The projector hummed. Someone's water glass sat untouched, a ring of condensation forming slowly on the mahogany. Hargrove reached for his pen, then stopped. His hand rested on the table, open, empty. The room had shifted. Raymond felt it, not like triumph, nothing so loud as that, more like a door opening onto cold air. Something that had been sealed for a long time, finally letting the outside in. Hargrove resigned from the board 11 days after the meeting. The letter cited personal reasons. It was brief and said nothing, which said everything. Caleb Osei kept his scholarship. The following month, at the April staff meeting, Dr. Ellison read a formal statement recognizing Raymond Dwyer for his 11 years of service and his commitment to the school's stated values. Raymond sat in the third row in his work uniform, pressed, patched square on the shoulder, because he did not own a suit and had not pretended otherwise. When the room applauded, he nodded once and looked at his hands. Dolores Fitch filed a pro bono education equity case using the documentation Raymond had gathered. It named Westbrook and 3 other institutions in the district. The case was still moving through review 6 months later, slow and deliberate, the way Dolores did everything. 6 months later, September. Raymond's phone rang on a Sunday evening while he was eating dinner at the kitchen table. A real dinner, chicken and rice, sitting down, the lamp buzzing its familiar note above him. The cracked screen lit up with his sister's name. "I heard what you did," she said. No greeting, just that. Raymond set his fork down. "Who told you?" "Doesn't matter." Her voice was warm and a little unsteady. "Raymond, I'm proud of you." He was quiet for a moment. Outside, a car moved down Caldwell Street, headlights sweeping the ceiling. "I just found a piece of paper," he said. "No." Her voice steadied. "You decided it mattered. That's different." He didn't have an answer for that. He sat with it instead, the way he sat with most things that were true. They talked for 31 minutes. Her youngest had started first grade. He'd lost the other front tooth. Raymond laughed at that, genuinely, the way he always did. After he hung up, he sat at the table for a while longer. The chicken went slightly cold. He didn't mind. There was something settled in the room that hadn't been there before. Not loud, not dramatic, just present, the way a window feels different after someone has finally opened it. The parent-teacher welcome event was on a Friday evening in late September. Raymond had been asked to help with setup, folding tables, arranging chairs, running extension cords for the projector. He worked through the gymnasium methodically, the way he worked through everything. He was carrying a folding table toward the far wall when he saw her. A girl, 10 years old maybe, sitting alone near the gymnasium door, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. Her backpack sat beside her on the floor. The zipper was broken, held shut with a rubber band. Raymond set the table down. He crossed the room. He pulled a folding chair from the stack nearby, opened it, and sat beside her. Not across from her, beside her. He didn't say much, just asked her name, told her his, mentioned that the folding chairs in the gymnasium were uncomfortable for everyone, which made her smile a little. He stayed until someone came to find her. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't a speech. It was just a man who had learned, over 11 years of watching, that the most important thing you can offer another person is the simple, quiet proof that they have been seen. That was enough. That had always been enough. Raymond didn't have a title or a platform. He had 11 years of paying attention, and one night, it changed everything. What have you been noticing that you haven't yet decided to act on? If this story stayed with you, subscribe and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. And next time, we have a story